So good evening, everybody. Apologies for being a little bit late. We had a long executive session. Let's start right in. The January 26th, 2022 meeting of the Long Branch City Council will now come to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Dangler?
Here.
Mr. Vieira? You're on mute.
Here.
Mrs. Wittes is absent. Dr. Selly?
Here.
And Dr. Vogt?
Here. We'll now recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which
it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the
Council
mission statement.
President, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Most of everybody on the screen is on mute. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Okay, thank you. No, I wasn't.
And Council President, it's Lou right now, and I just wanted to let you know that I've logged back in, but not with video.
Okay, good. Glad you're back.
Thank you.
And now the mission statement. Long Branch Mayor, City Council, and Administration are committed to cultivating an environment of mutual trust and respect that values the diversity of our community. We will strive to enhance the quality of life for all who live here by making Long Branch a desirable place in which to live and prosper. We will treat all members of the public with respect and expect the same in return. Heather, if you'd read the certification.
I hereby certify that this meeting has been published in the newspaper and adequate and electronic notice has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and the New Jersey Administrative Code, Title V, Chapter 39, Section 1.5, Notice of Remote Public Meetings as required by law.
Good, thank you. Reading and approval of previous minutes, I need a motion to approve the minutes of the January 12th, 2022 meeting.
So move.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Dangler?
Yes.
Mr. Vieira?
Yes.
Mrs. Wittes is absent. Dr. Selly?
Yes, here.
And Dr. Vogt?
Yes. And for our presentations tonight, I'd actually like to turn it over to the mayor to do some introductions and scene setting.
So thanks, Madam President. I just wanted to, tonight we're going to get a presentation from our city engineer, Laura Newman, who's here with us. And I wanted to bring Laura in because, it's important for our administration and the city council, for all of us, that we had a robust road improvement program. And we've done a lot in the last 3.5 years. So I thought it would be good for Laura to come in and tell us what's been going on. By the end of the year, we'll have paved 35 roads here in Long Branch, many of which include new curbing, sidewalks, some drainage and streetscape improvements. And all of these projects were funded by a combination of state and federal grants and, of course, the city contribution. But, as you all know, we aggressively sought out multiple funding sources. In fact, we received the largest Transit Village grant in 2020 from the State Department of Transportation. So in total, the city of Long Branch has received almost $3 million for roadway projects since we all came into office. And again, with that, I'd want to introduce Laura. She's going to make a presentation. Laura.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and good evening. My office has obviously put together a brief presentation to review in greater detail the road capital improvement projects. I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Having an issue advancing the slide though. There we go. So as indicated by the mayor, by the end of the 2020 calendar year, we anticipate that over the past 4 years, 35 roadways have been resurfaced or improved throughout the city. This presentation will highlight some of those projects and the associated funding. So I guess to start, what is a road program? So a road program generally consists of roadway resurfacing, curb and sidewalk replacement where necessary, handicap curb ramp compliance, signage, striping, and drainage improvements. As part of the 2018 road program, which was completed in December, I'm going to proceed with some before and after photos. You'll see on this one on Rockwell, to the left is actually even post improvements, but there remained a drainage issue. So then you see again the photo on the right, which was then remedied by the contractor. As part of the 2019 road program that was completed in July of 2021. And similarly, I'm going to go through those pictures of before and afters. So beyond the 2019 road program, the 2020-2021 road program contract has been awarded, but due to material delays, the contractor has not been able to mobilize, but I am happy to report that he anticipates commencing work in March of 2020. And as the roadways for the 2022 road program, those have been budgeted and included, and the design will commence on those shortly. Our office was also able to work with the city's Office of Community and Economic Development to improve a portion of sidewalk on Liberty Street. And again, starting with the pre-construction photos, you see the conditions prior and again, post-construction. And again, you'll see that tie into existing pavement, recognizing this, in fact, was just a sidewalk improvement project. As the mayor indicated, the city has received just under $3 million in funding to help advance these roadway projects. Of note, the 2020 Transit Village Award for 3rd Avenue, Long Branch was one of 6 municipalities in the state that received funding, and also was awarded the highest grant amount of $475,000. And again, just advancing, these are some additional, more recent awards that we've seen from the DOT. 3rd Avenue received $725,000 in funding, which aided in the advancing of the project, which included streetscape improvements, roadway resurfacing, and ultimately providing revitalization to the train station area. Again, going to some pre and post-construction photos, the project focused on, again, resurfacing, delineating crosswalks, decorative lighting, beautification of the sidewalk areas, and as well as landscape amenities. Woodgate Avenue was awarded over $351,000 in funding. And again, starting with some pre-construction photos and moving into some post-construction photos. Long Branch Avenue received just under $845,000 in funding. The city has awarded the contract. Mobilization is anticipated around March of 2022. And we look forward to advancing this project as we're aware of longstanding flooding issues. Among the improvements this project proposes is adding additional inlets and piping, which will increase storage for large storm events and improve drainage conveyance. Overall, the city has demonstrated not only a commitment to improve the appearance, function, and safety of its roadways, but also in obtaining federal and state grants when available to assist in funding. This would conclude my presentation, and I certainly am happy to answer any questions there may be.
Excellent, Laura. Are there any questions or comments?
A very nice job, and thank you for all your hard work.
No problem. Thank
I'm sure
you.
the residents will appreciate the improvements.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same here, Laura. Great job. Thanks for getting us all those grants. And Long Branch Avenue is definitely in need of that. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah.
Laura, you've done a great job on all the improvements, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. As usual, Laura, outstanding. Your work is terrific for all the improvements in Long Branch. Many, many thanks.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Okay, now you certainly are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or you, if you would like to enjoy your evening elsewhere, feel free. But thank you,
Have a
Laura.
good evening.
Thank you, Laura.
Okay,
Good night.
good night. So moving along, consideration of ordinances, public hearing and final consideration, and this is for 01-22. It's an ordinance amending section 325-8, which is a stop intersection by designating a four-way stop intersection at Winter Street, Springdale Avenue, and Summer Street. This ordinance was introduced on January 12th, 2022, and designates a four-way stop intersection at Summer Street, Springdale Avenue, and Winter Street. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any member of the public has, if any member of the public has any comments to make, please dial *9 on your phone, and a representative will call on you by the last three digits of your phone number. When you're called upon, state your name and address clearly for the record. You'll have 5 minutes and may only speak once.
Caller whose phone number ends in 350. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Ernest McNolly, 710 Northeast 7th Street, Unit 407, Boynton Beach, Florida. I was born and raised at 301 2nd Avenue in Long Branch and lived in Monmouth County, Long Branch, and Asbury for 72 years. And I left for a lot of reasons. I think New Jersey's in serious trouble. I think Monmouth County is in serious trouble. I think Long Branch is in serious trouble. I think Asbury's in serious trouble. I think Neptune's in serious trouble, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we're talking about roads and we're talking about grants and funding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just so that we're aware, I still have family, friends, associates, and a lot of people where I was born and raised. And in the middle of the night, in the middle of the weekend, in the middle of the holiday, in the middle of the day, there's all these emergencies that come in. And a lot of them are related.
Mr. McNolly, this is not public discussion. This is a discussion on an ordinance establishing a four-way stop.
I know.
Street.
I know.
So
What I'm trying to
stick to that ordinance, please.
Okay. What I'm trying to get at is every time you bring up an ordinance to change an intersection or to modify something, it's always motivated by something else. And what I'm trying to say is, I don't think this city and council is qualified to really plan Long Branch because you're all planning it in a way.
Council President, this
Mr.
has nothing to
McNolly,
do with the ordinance.
your comments need to be directly with the ordinance.
Let me narrow it
If you
down.
continue,
Let me narrow it down. I don't want to.
Mr. McNolly, if you continue down this pathway, we will move to the next caller.
What pathway?
Speak directly to the ordinance with your comments.
Oh, really? Did you ever listen to the president? Does he stay on task?
Okay.
And look at the profanity.
Okay, let's
How come you
move.
don't cut the
Can you
president
please
off?
move us to the next caller? Thank you.
No other hands raised.
Okay, thank you. So I need a motion to close this public hearing for this ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Second? Good, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So this is the second reading for ordinance 01-22, entitled an ordinance amending section 325-8, stop intersections by designating a four-way stop intersection at Winter Street, Springdale Avenue, and Summer Street. I need a motion to adopt on second and final reading and advertise according to law.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Dangler,
Yes.
Mr. Viera,
Yes.
Dr. Selly,
Yes, and I'm going to make a comment. This is an important intersection. I live in that particular area and we have a lot of problem with traffic. So at least this is one way perhaps we can control it. So my vote is yes.
And Dr. Vogt.
And my vote is yes also. Good, thank you. Moving on to ordinance 02-22. This is an ordinance authorizing the sale of city property not needed for public use located on 205 Lenox Avenue and designated as Block 95, Lot 5.02 on the official tax map. This ordinance was introduced on January 12, 2022, and approves the sale of the real property located on 205 Lenox Avenue with a deed restriction that the property so transferred shall be merged into and become part of the property already owned by the purchasers and shall not be developed separately and cannot be used for residential purposes. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
If any member of the public has any comments to make, please dial *9 on your phone, and a representative will call on you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When you're called upon, state your name and address clearly for the record. You'll have 5 minutes to speak and may only speak once. And Will, do we have any callers?
Yes, we do. Caller whose phone number ends in 350. Go ahead.
Hi, Ernest McNolly, 710 Northeast 7th Street, Unit 407, Boynton Beach, Florida. It's amazing. What would we do without each other? Isn't that amazing? Here I am 1,200 miles away, and nobody in Long Branch calls in and has anything to say. I think what you're doing with this, I think what you're doing with this, what you're doing with this developer, what you're doing with this
If you don't
developer.
stop talking right now, I'm cutting your call off. So listen to what I'm saying. Your comment needs to apply to this ordinance. So please get to your point.
Okay, the way you're giving this land to the developers to tie it into what they want, and this has come up in a first reading, it's come up for conversation with the public, and some of us, myself included, know a lot of people in the neighborhood, and nobody thinks that this is fair and equitable. It's just a pattern. It's a pattern, and some people even believe I don't want to use the word discriminatory. I'm trying to think of another word. But it's like favoring the developers and their condo owners and resident, et cetera, and ignoring everyone else who lives on this street in this area. So I'm talking specifically about this. You know, you've gone into detail in the first reading. You heard a lot, and you look online, there's a lot of people don't like this constant trend of giving land to developers and giving this away. There's no public need, and changing what a street is going to be and the traffic pattern and et cetera, but you keep doing it. So I'm requesting you vote no. How's that?
Thank you, Mr. McNolly.
You're welcome.
Caller
Will,
whose
do we
phone
have-
number- Yep, one more hand raised. Caller whose phone number ends in 198. Go ahead.
Mr. IT man, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
Requesting 1 minute notification, Vincent Lepore, 33 Ocean Terrace, Long Branch. Council, you recall at the last council meeting, I spoke about this matter and presented 2 questions. 1, how does the sale of this lot accommodate any further development plans of the West End Sephardic Torah? And 2, what is the intended use of this lot? Since January 12th's introduction and tonight's schedule for adoption, I investigated and came across a document, that of Insight Engineering, representing the Sephardic Torah, expressing intent for a 5,000 square foot building as an addition to the current structure. At the 7/24/19 council meeting, a West End woman Ask Councilman Vieira a question about the exposed city meeting with the Sephardic Torah. If it was for the purpose of the Torah for dormitories, to which Vieira responded, quote, in my opinion, yes, end quote. So council has been aware of the proposed religious dormitory for quite some time now.
This is not a religious dormitory. It's to be used for parking. And
I'm
it's not for residential
speaking,
purposes.
council,
So,
the appraisal.
in all due respect, Mr.
on
Lepore,
page
you cannot
3,
lie to the
I'm
people.
quoting the appraisal on page 3. The property is of ample size and shape to accommodate a building envelope, which would allow
Correct, and
for
that's
a
why
residential
there's
a
restriction in
consistent
the
with the
transfer.
size of houses
So,
recently built
correct.
in the market, end quote.
correct.
A
And that's why there's
variance
a
would not be
restriction
difficult to
not to use
attain.
it for, and that's
The
why
above
there's a
quote
restriction. You
from
can't
the
get a variance.
appraiser directly contradicts the ordinance that states the vacant lot will carry a deed restriction, precluding the
does.
lot from being improved with a residential structure.
Correct. And the
Based upon
appraisal
the
was
appraiser's
appraised on its
limiting
best value.
residential condition, both the appraisal is worthless and the subsequent ordinance is worthless. They both negated each other as invalid. On page 30 of the appraisal, it states, quote, the 2021 tax rate for the subject community is 2.001 per 100 assessed value. Then it goes on to include the district as an add-on to Ocean Grove. Block 95, lot 5.02 was put in Ocean Grove. A critical flaw in this appraisal, sourcing Neptune Township, further proving this council didn't do their homework again. Other factors not considered by this council. Was the Sephardic Torah in good standing with the city? At the 7/24/19 council meeting, it was revealed 3 U-Haul trucks were parked at the Torah, distributing mattresses, 20 of which was one house in the neighborhood, as well as mattresses into the Torah. The violations cited by the city over the last 2.5 years are very troubling. Number 2, the city's failing environmental commission has once again failed to source the city's master plan, Section 2, Goals and Objectives for the Preservation of Space and Forests, further detailed in the Environmental Resource Inventory, Section 4-1.7, highlighting preservation of benefits of the urban forest. Since the land is currently city-owned and tax-exempt, with the intent of this ordinance selling it to another tax-exempt religious organization. The land of the people of this city should have been put up for a referendum so that the residents can decide if the highest and best use for this property should be environmental for urban forestry preservation or residential construction for tax ratables. Instead, this council decided to do political backroom dealings. Another example of this council doing a flawed ordinance without doing the diligence and homework. This council is not prepared to vote on this ordinance. The appraisal supporting the ordinance is seriously flawed. And when the appraisal starts sourcing Neptune Township for block 95, lot 5.02, you got big problems. I'm requesting the ordinance be tabled or it be voted no. There's no reason for approval of this ordinance. Vote no.
Thank you, Mr. Lepore. Are there any comments in terms of the presentation?
Yes, Council President, if I can. So
Yeah.
when we do an appraisal of property, we always appraise it at what its highest and best use is. And the highest and best use of this property would be residential. So we got the highest and best value for it, even though we've specifically restricted it by a deed, so it can't be used for residential. So in the end, and by the way, you can't get a variance from a deed restriction, it's restricted. So, and I suspect that Mr. Lepore knows this, but he always tries to figure out a way to see if he can twist it into something sinister. So we got the highest and best value for it, which is what I think we're supposed to do. We don't need the property for any city use. We've answered the question as to what it's going to be used for. It's going to be used for parking to restore parking in that neighborhood. And that's pretty much all this is. It's not anything other than that. Mr. Lepore keeps talking about a council meeting, about some other iteration of some other plan, and I don't really have a comment with regards to that. I just know what this is, and it's pretty straightforward. And I just want to make sure, Council President, because it's unfair when people come up and they say things that are wrong, and I believe that they know are wrong just because they're trying to create some sinister narrative.
Thank you, Mr. Rhinone. Clarification on points is always important. So we appreciate your comments and certainly your knowledge on this topic. And any other comments, or can we move forward? Okay, let me move forward to this is the second reading, or do I, let me see. I need a motion to close. I'm sorry, I need a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So this is the second reading of ordinance 02-22, entitled an ordinance authorizing the sale of city property not needed for public use located at 205 Lenox Avenue and designated as Block 95, Lot 5.02 on the official tax map. I need a motion to adopt on second and final reading and advertise according to law.
So move.
I need a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Dangler,
Yes.
Mr. Viera,
Yes.
Dr. Selly,
Yes.
and Dr. Vogt.
Yes. Ordinances for introduction. This is the first reading of ordinance 03-22, entitled an ordinance amending section 325-24.1 residential parking program of the Code of the City of Long Branch. This ordinance amends section 325-24.1 by allowing motor vehicles to be registered to property owners with an adjacent line to the street designated as resident permit parking only, with a corner lot with a residence facing an intersecting street. I need a motion to introduce on first reading, advertise and post according to law, and set the public hearing for February 9th, 2022.
So moved.
So move. Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Dangler,
Yes.
Mr. Viera,
Yes.
Dr. Selly,
Yes.
and Dr. Vogt.
Yes. Public participation on resolutions and all general comments. I need a motion to open the public portion of the meeting for all comments.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. If any member of the public has any comment to make, please dial *9 on your phone and a representative will call on you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When you're called upon, state your name and address clearly for the record. You'll have 5 minutes to talk and may only speak once. All comments should be directed to the council president. There will be no cross dialogue during the public portion. After everyone from the public wishing to speak has been heard, any member of the council or the administration may address your comments and questions. While public participation is encouraged and valued, the presiding officer reserves the right to terminate remarks to or by any individual not in keeping with the conduct of a proper and efficient meeting. And do we have any callers?
We've got 2 hands raised. Caller whose phone number ends in 198. Go ahead.
Mr. IT Man, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
1 minute notification, please. Vincent Lepore, 33 Ocean Terrace, Long Branch. I'd like to thank the City Health Department for addressing an emergency situation this morning involving the demolition of a house with a city colony of little people living under it. I called Mr. Cowell, head of the Health Department. He listened, then proceeded to dispatch animal control. Animal control arrived within 5 minutes, halted the demolition, secured the site so that the little people could escape, which they did. Timing and quick response was everything by animal control. Great thanks to Animal Control Officer Deborah Nagel for her professional manner in handling this situation. On ordinance number 2, you lost all credibility, Attorney Raynone. Not one word in that ordinance says the parking lot. Not one word says the intent of the sale of the land is for parking. And this council goes ahead and approves it on a flawed appraisal. This is as sickening as it gets. It really is. No credibility in this government whatsoever. And no, Mr. Raynone, this is not the highest and best use for this property at the current time. It was city-owned. Concerning Ordinance 25, that was discussed over the last several meetings involving the police chief, on the incorrect information again of Attorney Raynone. At the last council meeting, June 12th, at the 43-minute mark, after I cited Chapter 7819 of the City Code, Attorney Raynone stated, quote, Mr. Lepore, Attorney Raynone stated, quote, the wrong ordinance that was repealed. Attorney Raynone continued, I'm not sure what Mr. Lepore is even reading. Again, Mr. Raynone, quote, Mr. Lepore, you have the wrong ordinance. That was a repeal. And then Raynone continues, quote, I'm not sure what it is Mr. Lepore is looking at or not looking at. End quote. Raynone incorrectly cited Chapter 7819 of the City Code as an ordinance, which it clearly is not. Chapter 7819 is a chapter in the City Code. The normal procedure of municipal government is to source the code. So a proposed ordinance, which would be considered, would look at the code and be guided. Perhaps, had Raynone sourced the City Code from the beginning, before writing Ordinance 25, he would have seen that Ordinance 821, which he repeatedly cited, was not even added to the code as to amending Chapter 7819. On the evening of January 12th, knowing in advance the deceptive practices of Attorney Raynone and this city, I had posted on the Watchdogs a time-dated freeze-frame shot of the code's Chapter 7819 as it appeared on the city website on January 12th. As predicted, the city soon after the January 12th meeting quickly removed the police chief from the code. Chapter 7819 now states, reserved, editor's note, former section 7819, responsibility of chief, as amended, was repealed 4/28/21 by Ordinance 821.
So I guess I was right, Mr. Lepore, right?
How convenient, Miss Anita Vogt. Before you start sourcing Attorney Raynone for what you refer to as incorrect information. Again, Anita Vogt, before you start sourcing Attorney Raynone for what you refer to as incorrect information, you had best eliminate yourself from sourcing Raynone from his incorrect information. This was another example. And no, Raynone, I heard. So in the end, you were right. No, you wrote Ordinance 25. The ordinance you cited wasn't in the code, nor was it amended in the code for the police chief.
Mr. Lepore. It was
No, it wasn't. You have no clue the difference between the city code and an ordinance, Raynone.
Apparently,
this is clearly transparent. All it is your repeated incompetence. The repeated incompetence of the attorney of this city and the council of this city as it continues and continues to be junk government.
1 minute, 5 minutes.
Um, Council President,
yes,
just for the record, and I think that the clerk could probably clear this up for you. The ordinance that council adopted repealed that section. The clerk, after Mr. Lepore spoke, looked at the code and realized that the people who put the website up for the code made a mistake. So clearly the ordinance in question repealed that section. And by the way, the clerk's office had given Mr. Lepore a copy of that ordinance when it was adopted. So he knew that. It was a mistake by the people who do the code website. It's all it was. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing mysterious, nothing nefarious.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anon.
You're welcome.
Will, I think you said is there another caller?
Caller whose phone number ends in 350. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, Ernest McNolly, 710 Northeast 2nd Street, Boynton Beach, Florida, Unit 407. Born and raised 301 2nd Avenue, Long Branch, New Jersey, 1948. It's difficult to figure out how the public, and the reason I consider myself the public and concerned is because even though I've moved to Florida permanently, it's unthinkable how much I want to buy a place in Long Branch or Asbury to be near my family in the area. And I can't do that. I can't do that because if you look at what New Jersey was, still is, and is reinforcing, and I don't pull it out of the air. Look at FBI statistics. Look what the commissioners are going through now, the sheriffs. Look at with money. Look at what this prosecutor, Monmouth County, is involved and wrapped up in the Seidel case and now the Wall Township case. And look at the conflicts. And then look at these prosecutors with the Superior Court judges who half them come from Long Branch, Neptune, or Asbury. And look how they're covering for these police charge cases, for these school teachers and administrators and employees charged with sex crimes in the schools. What more could go wrong? But what happens? You put people like Renone or Raffredo and Asbury or Sean Keene's law firm up there to just keep blocking the public out and covering for what the prosecutor and the sheriff have allowed and done in this county since 2010. 2012, Gramaccioni came on board. His record is clear. That's why a federal judge just said, no, sir, in the Seidel case, so you don't have qualified immunity. You rearmed him. And then he says, well, I resign. And then the attorney general resigned. And then everybody resigned. School superintendents, police chief, and law, everybody resigns. Resign. Now look at Wall. And look at the lawyer, Mrs. Gramaccioni. And Mr. Gramaccioni gets to say, leave these kids alone. Remember the last time a Superior Court judge did that, where one of his favorite kids raped a girl in the basement and put the film on, and they didn't want to charge him? Remember what they did to the judge? They asked Senator Gopal. He went with me. The judge was removed. Let me say one thing, what's going on in New Jersey and Monmouth County. God hear this, and all the people who live there. The people that you think are protecting us, infants, children, schools, right, from drugs, corruption, nepotism, crime, theft, are not. I was born into it. I've experienced it for 73 years. Look at the riot on 6/19. Look, you still cover that up. Look at the shooting of Akil, of the guy with the baby on Chelsea. You don't want people to know that, do you? Akil's the one that got caught driving drunk, cracked the pole in half, right? And what do? You get him over in Middletown. Then once he's in Middletown, where the governor is and the prosecutor, then you put him on the sheriff's SWAT team. And what does he do? He shows up on Chelsea, and one of the people that shot the guy with the baby in his hand. Now, why did the city press Patty O'Neill and the Lincoln, all them put on, oh no, he handed the baby off. You know what it is? You guys are covering everything. Just like the prosecutor, just like what's going on in Wall Township and Asbury schools. Look
One
at
minute notification.
look at the coach there, Familaro. He gets caught with no pants on.
Heather,
Is it
did you say
semen?
5 minutes or did you say
So
1
1
minute?
minute, 1 minute.
No, they said 1 minute left. Stop wasting my time, miss. I want one more
Speak to
minute.
me, Mr. Magnoli, you don't speak to me that way. Speak to me with respect, just the way I speak with you, to you with respect.
You don't speak to me
Go
with
ahead.
respect.
Go ahead and finish your 5 minutes.
I have 1 minute left. See, now you, okay. That's why you do that. You do that to bother people. So listen, anybody in public office, we're allowed to talk about it. It's not personal. If I want to talk about who the prosecutors were doing each other, I can talk about that because I know the Monmouth County prosecutor, especially the police responsibility unit, especially people like in Cremona, Jackie Seeley, Jennifer Lipp, Melanie Falco. You don't think I know what they do in there? And what do? You bring them all out to cover all these cases up, like Walls and Pascucci and all of them. It's all a cover-up, a big cover-up. And you say, well, you don't have a right to say. It's not personal. It's public. Anybody in office, when they're in office, if they're doing this or doing that or doing somebody, it's public. It's not private. And by the way, look at your council. Look at what they do in office. Look at your school superintendents. Look what they do in office. What, are you going to deny it all? Get Renaud to deny everything. Get them to deny everything. That's why the most confusing.
Does anybody have any comment? Well, I do. I think we just see examples of the concern that we have, not only in Long Branch, but all over in terms of civility and respect. And the idea that public servants, people who step up and say, let me try to do something. Let me try to work to improve my community. The perception that we can be just targets for anything that can be said against us because we're public servants. It's a sad state of affairs when we see examples like this. That's my comment. So moving on, Madam Clerk, have you received any public comment by electronic mail or written letter?
Yes, I received one from Laura Tarlow. She has 2 questions for the ordinances. Ordinance 0222, was the income from the sale of lot 205 Lenox Avenue included in the current year's approved budget? If this represents new unbudgeted income, will the income from the sale of $640,000 be applied towards reduction of property taxes in the subsequent quarter in which the income is realized by the city? If not, why is this new income not applied towards taxpayer relief? And ordinance 3-22, this resolution does not specify that residents-only streets will be those where lots do not have driveways. As such, when a street is designated as resident-only parking, will property owners be able to obtain guest passes? If no guest passes, is there any regulation preventing residents with driveways to move their cars to the streets, thereby allowing their guests to park in their driveways? Thank you for your consideration of these questions. Laura Tarlow.
Good, thank you, Heather. And Mr. Jackson, could you field those questions?
I believe Mr. Renaud will handle the first
okay.
question.
Yeah, so the first question is
about the ordinance.
Yes,
okay.
as council knows, we don't have an approved budget for this year. So the money that we would receive from the sale of the land, when we would receive it, if it was received before we adopted the budget, would be booked as other revenue to the city. And of course, all money that the city collects goes to tax relief because it lowers the amount of money you have to raise by taxation. So the answer to those questions are generally yes, assuming we get the money. Now, if we don't get the money until after the budget is adopted, then that will happen in next year. So that's the answer to the question with regards to the property. But I guess Ms. Tarla didn't understand the fact that we don't have an adopted budget for this year. And we don't have the money yet because the closing hasn't happened.
Okay, thank you. And Mr.
Right.
Jackson?
Yes, in regards to Mr. Parlo's second question about the parking ordinance, this is an existing ordinance that's being amended with the insertion of a continuation of one sentence in section 325, 24.1 B2. And all that does is expand the eligibility of people for the resident parking permit if their property has an adjacent property line to a street that's already designated as a resident permit parking only, such as a corner lot with a residence facing and intersecting the street. As I said, this is an existing ordinance. We're not creating a new one, and we're not amending any of the aspects of the existing ordinance that Ms. Tarlo asked about. The ordinance does not make any type of exception or any type of stipulation whether or not a property owner has a driveway or doesn't have a driveway. It has no bearing on their eligibility for the resident parking permit. With regard to guest passes, they are not provided for in any way by the existing ordinance. And she asked a question, is there anything preventing a resident who has a permit from taking their vehicles, parking them in the street, and allowing guests to use their driveway? There is nothing in the ordinance that prohibits that. It's not even referred to in the ordinance. So I think those answer her questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Surely.
So now I need a motion to close the public participation portion of this meeting.
Motion to close the participation part of the meeting.
Second,
And all in favor?
Aye.
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 And now, Madam Clerk, please let us know if there were any changes to the list of resolutions after it was originally published.
No, there were not.
Okay, good, thank you. So we can take the listed resolutions as a consent agenda. I need a motion to do that.
So move.
second,
And roll call, please.
Mr. Dangler,
Yes.
Mr. Viera,
yes,
Dr. Selly,
Yes,
and Dr. Vogt.
Yes. And applications, we have none. And so moving to miscellaneous business for the good of the order. And Councilman Dangler, you start us off if you would, please.
I just want to say, as always, please continue to wear your mask. And keep in mind that after hearing Dr. Fauci and other physicians, the cloth masks are fine, but N95 and now N94 are better, even if you have to double up. So please just be safe so we can beat this COVID new variant. And everyone just be healthy and enjoy their families. And for the storm coming up, please be prepared as best you can. Stay warm and stay safe. Thank you, and God bless everyone.
Good, thank you, Mr. Dangler. Councilman Viera.
yes, good evening. And I also want to echo what Councilman Dangler mentioned. Stay safe, follow those mask rules. And with the storm coming up, please stay safe and good night.
Thank you, Mr. Viera. Councilwoman Selly.
tonight you sit here and we listen to comments by our residents. Not once have I heard them ever say anything positive. This council, the last 3.5 years, has made so many improvements in the city. It's a shame that you can't see them where we can. That's the end of my statement. However, I will say the same thing as Mario and Bill did. Wear your mask, stay safe, and be safe during the storm. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Selly. Mayor Pallone.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, a lot of council people have referred to the storm. Could you give us an update and Public Safety Director Saldid? I know we had Stan Zuba on the phone earlier. I just want to make sure that, our residents are aware of what's going on, that we'll be communicating as needed, and, we're as prepared as we can be.
Yes, Mayor. As Director Zuba reported, all of his vehicles are at the ready. The predictions of snow depth are changing, so we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Tomorrow we'll have better information as we close in on Friday evening. Also, as particularly after last weekend's event with our power outage in the city, at your direction, I reached out to Frank Luna, our community representative for JCP&L. Tomorrow, he will be forwarding me a statement about their state of readiness and what their expectations are for the storm. As you know, whenever there's a major weather event, JCP&L always reaches out by email to all of the municipalities, gives a report on their actions in preparation for the storm and numbers that we can call in the event we need information. But I just want to compliment Mr. Luna for his responsiveness last weekend. Mayor, you and I and the director were on the phone throughout the evening with Director Zuba, and we were getting updates by the minute as the power was restored throughout the city. So I would expect no less this weekend in the event we have any issues with power outages. Director Saldida, you want to comment?
Yeah, good evening. We started speaking about the storm 2 days ago, and we've seen that it might be coming into our area. We've been monitoring. Myself, Director Zuba, Lieutenant Shirley, and all our partners around the area, whether it's the hospital, JCP&L, city employees, etc. We're all on base. We'll be meeting tomorrow. We will continue to meet throughout the day, as we always do, and through the night. Any changes, council always gets an update from me as things change. We will put anything out on social media and through the city website, and we will keep everybody safe and updated. Police and fire are in place. We have no problems as far as any manpower issues. So we're ready to go and help DPW out in this snowstorm.
Thank you, gentlemen. I just wanted to add that, this, according to Mr. Zuba, this can go, there's a couple of different ways that this storm can go. We'll obviously hope for the best, but we want to keep everyone safe and know that we're preparing. I had a couple other things I just wanted to add. We continue to have our weekly testing and vaccines at the Bucky James Community Center. We encourage our residents to take advantage of this in-town option if you so desire. With any questions, please call our health department for any more information. That's at 732-571-5665. And again, our health department can answer pretty much any health-related question that you might have, so please take advantage of that. Our art center currently has an exhibit called Natural Wonders by the art of Kira Ustak. This will be ending at the end of the month, and our next exhibit will begin at the beginning of February. The next exhibit is called Black History Through the Art, in celebration of Black History Month, and will feature 5 artists, most of them local, with sculptures, thread art, printed posters, and wood carving. So we're excited about that. All of that is on the website as well. And finally, our Hometime Heroes banner program that was started by Councilwoman Wittes and the rest of the council is up and running. And that honors United States military veterans who presently or formerly reside in Long Branch. Banners will be displayed throughout town. More information is available on that on our website at longbranch.org. With that, again, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in, and be safe.
Good, thank you, Mayor. And I would like to make 2 comments. My first comment actually is going to be on behalf of the whole council and administration, and I'm sure everybody who is listening. And it's that our hearts go out to the families of the 2 slain officers that happened in the city where they were shot point blank. Was a case of dealing with a a mental health situation, two fine officers in their 20s just killed in cold blood. Sometimes we come to these meetings and we talk about all of the negative things about our police. And we forget how fortunate we are and how much they risk their lives all the time to protect us. And this is a prime example of just two gentlemen with their hearts in the right place to do good and killed in cold blood. So it's a moment just for us, again, to be thankful for our police and the job that all of our policemen do throughout the country. That's comment number one. Comment number two has to do with one of the resolutions that we passed, and it was Resolution 28-22. And again, this speaks about a grant that Long Branch was given, and it is to address health disparities throughout our community, meaning that some parts of our community are better served, have better health outcomes than other parts of our community. And this is a grant that we have in partnership with RWJ Barnabas to study what areas in our community need increased service. It's such an extremely important grant. It's a year-long program. I'll keep you posted on the progress that we make with that. The outcome of this grant is really to produce a roadmap for us that when future funding becomes available, we know where the services need to be increased, and we know what kind of services are needed. So again, we in Long Branch are fortunate to have been granted that study. So with that, I'll join my colleagues in saying stay safe. We're going to have a challenging weekend all the way around, but watch out for yourselves, watch out for your neighbors, and thank you for joining us today. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, have a good night, everybody. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.